I'm just grabbing up paint, not really thinking about it, putting it on, not worried about oftentimes the colors. The next day I wake up and I look at something and I go, who painted that? This is fabulous. Where'd that come from? Because I'm just so into the process of it. I don't even oftentimes know what I'm doing. I'm just doing it. And the painting takes on a life of its own.
Do you approach life the same way you approach your art?
I think at some level I probably do. I'm a very spontaneous person. I sort of have a plan, but then life will take you someplace else that you don't expect it. And as long as you're open to it, it could be fascinating. Not too planned, not too controlling, and just let things naturally happen as they will.
Welcome to another edition of Chasing the Timeless. Today I have a very special friend, Deborah Blackwell. And I never think about what questions I'm going to ask beforehand, but last night as I was going to bed, I had a thought about today's interview. And what it made me think about was at my college, whenever there's somebody that the school would bring to talk for convocation or graduation or other stuff, is always somebody that was the president of the UN, a vice president who went to the school there, or some big Fortune 500 CEO. And I felt like they were setting an example of what our goals should be and what we're supposed to value. And I've always felt like you would be the perfect person as an example to put in front of a bunch of young college students for how to live their life. And for everybody just starting to watch here, the way I met Deborah Blackwell is you started a studio in Whitewater, Wisconsin called Studio 84. And you did it primarily to serve people with learning disabilities, mental disabilities, just as a total nonprofit way for people who are otherwise don't have access to art to experience the beauty of what you've done your whole life. And I think that is, by anybody's measure, the top level of success that I can think of.
Thank you for that compliment. I'm very humbled by that. Yeah, it was a number of years ago that I was still in college when it all kind of came to me that that's what I wanted to do. It was the last year of college. I was sitting in a very boring position, manning the art office on a 2-week vacation for the office people. And I looked up at the thing and said, oh, arts management minor. What can I do with that? Well, 2 days later, I was signed up to get a minor, and so that I could develop a nonprofit art organization for people with disabilities and for the community as well. So it kind of all started my last year of college that I kind of started putting it all together. Yeah.
So how long from graduating from college, and was it Studio 84 was the first thing you opened?
Yeah, pretty much so. I graduated, and by that time I had all the stuff ready. Nonprofit status was in application, and that summer after graduation, I started looking for places to rent in Whitewater, and it just kind of snowballed from there. So almost immediately upon graduation, I had things ready to go, all the while trying to do my Bachelor of Fine Arts show.
Where were you in your life at this point? Like if you want to break your life into stages or whatnot.
Wow. I don't know. I guess it was a stage of another new beginning. I've had a lot of new beginnings in my life, I guess. And this was just another new beginning for me. I had no idea where it was going to take me. I just thought, I have to do something now that I'm graduated. And I never felt I was the type of person who fit well in with traditional jobs, 9-to-5 jobs kind of thing. Of course, that's where I ended up, as a 9-to-5 job anyway, as the director of the studio. But I was, I had been divorced by this time for many years, so on my own, and finished raising up the kids and everything. And I guess I have to look at it as another new beginning in my life.
We've had several podcasts where we've talked about transitions in life. So when you were raising your kids, were you a stay-at-home mom? Like, did you have a career or jobs before you got married?
I was a stay-at-home mom most of the time.
Which is a full-time job.
Yeah, which is, a full-time job. And I had a couple of jobs in daycare before I got married. So we're talking like early 20s, right after high school. And then started raising kids. And I picked up some babysitting jobs, to help make ends meet. I drove school bus for a number of years to help make ends meet. All the time dabbling in art, taking Gateway Technical College, adult education classes in art. And so at that time I was just dabbling in art. And the more I dabbled, the more I liked it. I did teach some homeschooled kids art in my home for a while, and knew that's I really enjoyed that. I didn't want to become a teacher in the public school system just because of all the red tape and the politics. And just really decided that would be kind of cool to have an art studio that people could just come to and make art in the community. So it's been kind of brewing for a number of years, I guess, when I think about it. And then life just kind of got in the way for many years. And then the divorce came, and that's when I decided to go back to school for something, because I had to have a job. And I was going to school to become a physical therapist aide, which is a 2-year associate degree. And it was at the time in the program where we were going to start doing our clinicals. And the teacher said, pick one of your classmates, people get together, and a couple of your classmates go and pick out lab coats so that everybody has the same lab coat, so that wherever you are in your clinicals, people will know that you're from the same class. This is your class. Mm-hmm. I'm going, a white lab coat's going to do that? They're not going to care. Yeah. And it was at that point where I'm like, I can't do this. I dropped out of that and that summer and started working towards my degree in Bachelor of Fine Art. I had to get through all the math first, though. Because you have to have certain things, and math is not where I'm very proficient at all. I could screw it up on a calculator, even adding 1 + 1. So I had to take math classes, and they put me through the test, and I failed it so miserably. They were going to make me take first a semester of math, just so I can get proficient enough to take the actual class I needed for the credit to graduate. So now you're talking several math classes. I ended up taking a class at a technical college, and the teacher was incredible. I got straight A's in that class, never in my life. So that transferred over, so I got through the math situation pretty good. And then, yeah, I got into all my Bachelor of Fine Art degree, working towards discovering who I was as an artist. So
discovering who you are. What did you discover, and how did you discover that?
Oh boy, I opened a can of worms, didn't I? I guess I discovered that I don't like realism. I mean, I appreciate it, and I know the hard work, and I can do it, but I don't like creating that way, simply because I can look out my window and there's realism right there. You know, I see it every day. So I found I really respond to colors that aren't out, that you don't see normally put together. I respond to very emotional things. Sometimes I can just be reading something on the internet or in a book or whatever, and something just clicks, like, that's really weird. That's really fascinating. And then I'll research it a little bit further, and I have this emotional connection to whatever it is. So it could be just about anything that triggers that. So those are my main things: an emotional response to something, and color and texture. I like, yeah.
The emotional response to something, is it always a visual, artistic type thing, or is this something that just transcends anything you're looking at?
Just about anything can trigger that. It could be text that I see. It could be a concept that I read about of something, or it could just be, I mean, like right now, if you look on that wall over there, there's a picture of pillows all stacked up. That just triggered something. I like that, because right now my work is about creating shapes and putting them in a landscape format that, I mean, who sees a square block, you know, in the landscape, you know? It's just, so finding weird things that just trigger that. I like to challenge myself too, so.
That reminds me a lot of things that I appreciate in really good music, which is another tangential area of creativity from visual arts and music, where the artist sets you up with something that's predictable and then tweaks it just a little bit. And if you aren't listening or paying attention, you won't necessarily notice it. But the fact that it's contrasts with what they have been doing is enough to create just a little playful, fun spin on stuff.
Yeah.
So I kind of get that same sense with putting different shapes where you don't necessarily see them.
Yeah.
So do you start some art and feel inspiration as you're painting it? Or does all the inspiration come from an experience of looking at something and getting an idea and saying, I want to paint that?
It changes. You know, the initial, I don't know, if it's words some words that trigger it, it'll sometimes put an image in my head. I've even had images come to me in a dream, and I woke up the next morning and had to paint that. If it's an image in a book or a magazine, I'll take that image and start there and get that basic idea of what that image is and get it, you know, on the canvas, just quick outlines of things. And then from there, something else takes over. And I can't even describe what that is. It's like, I guess you might say I'm a process person. I'm just grabbing up paint, not really thinking about it, putting it on, not worried about oftentimes the colors, or unless I'm challenging myself. Right now I'm challenging myself with the color white, but just the next day I wake up and I look at something and I go a little space, and I'm going, oh my gosh, who painted that? This is fabulous. Where'd that come from? Because I'm just so into the process of it, I don't even oftentimes know what I'm doing. I'm just doing it, and the painting takes on a life of its own.
Okay. How does that tie into how you see your life and see the world, of letting things kind of guide you without trying to be too controlled? Do you approach life the same way you approach your art?
I think at some level I probably do. I'm a very spontaneous person, and I guess my art is pretty spontaneous. There's sort of a plan, and I think in life I sort of have a plan, but then life will take you someplace else that you don't expect it, and as long as you're open to it, it could be fascinating. So yeah, I think that kind of relates to how I operate in life. Keep it spontaneous, keep it planned, but not too planned, not too controlling, and just let things naturally happen as they will.
Yeah. Have you always had that kind of, is that a deliberate approach to life, or just you look back and you think, I guess my life is sort of spontaneous? I mean, is that do you have your life motto to try to live that way? Or does it just
No, it just happens. Yeah. I don't think I ever set out in life to be a spontaneous person that just lets life happen. It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows, I may have been that way since I was little. I just never knew it. But yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I've sort of been spontaneous, or trying to let life just flow. But there's so much direction I was taught in my life about the process of life. And it was a deliberate decision of mine to try to catch myself following a plan and say, you know what, I'm going to try to trust this spontaneous process a little bit more. And it's something that's still continuing to grow in me, is the trust in that. Do you, throughout your life and different stages and going into this, how much do you worry about what's going to happen, especially when you're decide to go to college, decide to open up this studio and other things?
Yeah, I worry.
Right, you're human.
I get that from my mother, but I don't worry excessively like she used to. There's always got to be a sense of worry, because, when I decided to drop out of PTA school, I had no idea where it was going to lead me. I knew a PTA position would have been a good paying position that I could have just lived off of and been comfortable. But somehow the white jackets just did it in for me. There was too much of a rebel in me to be so, you got to do this. This is how you got to look when you go into work. So yeah, I kind of worried about where, if I go to art school, I didn't even think about it. I just signed up and knew that somehow I had to have art in my life, and I'd figure it out some way. But yeah, you kind of worry about it a little bit, because what are you going to use to buy food with, while you're doing this? So I just let it I just let the process happen and dealt with things that as they came along my way. I really couldn't. If I worried too much about it, I'd have been dead a long time ago.
Yeah. What inspired you to have a school for, welcoming in people with autism and other challenges into art? What about that aspect of it? Like, is that been a part of you in the past, or what inspired you, encouraged you to do that?
I think I've learned, I enjoy sharing my art with other people and sharing that skill with other people, which is why I did homeschooling with our kids, and did that way. But then it was when I got in college that every class I got to, it didn't matter which class it was, a history class, if the teacher asked, we need a note taker for so-and-so, nobody would raise their hand. They'd all be just sitting there like, mm-hmm. I began the one that was raising their hand in every class, so I was taking notes for everybody that needed that extra help. In my art classes, I saw a need, the same thing. Somebody needed extra help, and nobody was raising their hand. It's like, what's the matter with these people? I was the one that was raising their hands for everything that was helping other people do something. And so I got very involved with the Center for Students with Disabilities, and was helping them in any way that I could in their classrooms. And that just kind of sparked an interest in other people who don't have the ability to be able to attend college. Most of the people that I was helping in college cognitively could attend college with a little bit of extra help. Physically, maybe they needed extra help. Maybe they just needed a note taker. But then I thought of all these other people that don't have that capability to be able to go to college because cognition levels are low enough where they couldn't pass admission tests. What are they doing? This art is for everybody. It's such a rewarding, satisfying, internal, personal thing that what's everybody else doing? There's nothing out there for them. And that's when the idea of having a community art center really developed while I was in college, to help all those others who couldn't go to college. And like I said, then by the time I graduated, I was ready to open up and start doing something.
That's just beautiful empathy. Even from somebody in a history class needing help taking notes and processing the information, all the way to what you did in your art studio, there's a recognition of the mental state of another person feeling challenged to get through something. What underlies that?
Okay, ask that question again. Let me wrap my head around that.
Are there things in your life that you think make you empathetic? Is it something tied to a spiritual connection? Is it just a logical, why doesn't everybody think this way? Because a lot of people aren't empathetic.
Wow. I don't know. It's just somebody I grew to be. I don't even know where it comes from. A healthy upbringing, I guess, of, in family life probably helped. Yeah.
It's kind of just the contrast to saying this is what makes me this way is this is just who I am.
Yeah.
Like nothing more than that. Is that kind of what you're saying? It just
Yeah.
it just is an automatic.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I chose to be that way. It was just who I was.
Yeah.
You know, somebody needed help. Just help them. We're humans, you know, just, yeah.
Yeah. Here's another question. In the process of doing this work in the studio, working with people, are there certain people or moments that have really stood out to you? How have you grown? What have you learned? Is it what you expected it to be?
You know, every person that I've come across that I've worked with, I have learned something new from. I had no background training. It was just my deep desire to share my love of the art with other people that really motivated me. I founded the studio on the premise that if you find your gift in life, then you need to share it with others. Mm-hmm. And my gift was art, and I learned while I was in college working with people with disabilities in my classrooms that I had a gift in working with people and understanding what their needs might be, and then my creativity to say, oh my gosh, okay, you can't do this one thing physically. How can I create something, or how can I help you be able to do that? So there's that creativity involved too. But everybody I've come across through the years that I worked at the studio have just been amazing people. They're so honest, raw, and innocent. And that's just an amazing quality.
That's the key to making good art, is to not be constrained, mm-hmm. and to be the raw and innocent. And when you're teaching the art, what exactly is it that you're teaching? Is it technique? Is it appreciation? Is it creativity? Is it how to connect to yourself? Or is it just explore what you can do with this and whatever you happen to learn? Like,
yeah, I oftentimes would just let them do whatever. Sometimes this is the first experience they've had exposed to art materials. Just let me see how you approach it. Do something. Sometimes they draw a blank, and I would say, well, what's your favorite thing out? Do you like landscapes? Do you like flowers? Do you like animals? You know, just start asking questions. And then something's going to trigger, and they'll start doing whatever they can do. Sometimes it was just basic scribbling. Sometimes they could actually create an animal or whatever. So then that was how I could approach where to go next with them. And then I would start challenging them. Okay, so you like to draw cartoon characters. Well, I remember one little boy especially, he come in there and he said, I'm only going to draw so-and-so character. And that's only going to be in pencil because that's what you draw with this pencil. Okay, fine. Yeah. So then I'd start asking him questions. You know, he'd draw these great little characters. And I'd say, well, he's just standing there in the middle of the paper. Is he floating in space? Are there rockets around him? Or is there ground? Is he at the park? Where is he? Because he was just a character on the page. Oh. So then he put it in an environment. I said, that's cool. Well, what color pants does he got on? Oh, so I'd start triggering just by asking stupid little questions, and before you know it, they weren't just using a pencil; they were using every material out there that we had available to them, because something got excited in them. So I oftentimes would start out just like that, just challenge them. Well, what if you used purple paint today instead of green paint? And another example of just challenging them was, I had a gentleman who was painting pages of green paint, just took the green paint and painting it. And the aide that was with him says, well, why don't you make a house? Why don't you do this? Here, let's make a little flower. I says, no, he likes green. And the guy looked at me like, she knows what she's talking about. I like green, yeah. So then I told him, I says, do you know how green, you can make lots of shades of green? And I took the blue paint and the yellow paint and showed him how he makes green. His eyes just lit up. He didn't have to depend on somebody else's, paint out of the tube to make green. Now he can make 1,000 million shades of green on his own. And that's what he did.
And you can go into art museums around the world of great artists doing basically just that.
Yeah.
Like here's all the different ways I can make a black and white line come together.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
And the excitement that he had when he knew that I really got him. He likes green. It doesn't have to be anything else but green. I don't, it doesn't have to be something. I had to kick the aide out. Just shut up. And and he was happy as a lark. The sheer joy that when he learned how to make green, and he went about just doing that, making green as many different ways as he could. And that's the kind of stuff I lived for, it's just to see that awakening, and to be able to take somebody who is only going to draw with pencil, it's only going to make green, and how can I push him further? How can I encourage that? Yeah.
As you're talking, that made me think, so I really like Basquiat's work, especially because of the references to so many different things in society, whether it's Miles Davis or some philosopher or art or a historical event, things that are brought in to the painting. And when you're talking about like, well, where are they? Just at that level, you're talking just on a physical, here's where you are, but there's so many other levels of context to life and the situation around you. Like, how are they feeling? What were they doing last month? What are their inspirations? There's so many things to try to capture in a paintbrush that can't be explained perfectly in a paintbrush or at all.
Yeah. I would oftentimes tap into their emotions, How are you feeling today? Why don't you paint that? And it would just like, wow, they never thought of painting a feeling. I mean, which one of these colors makes you feel like you're feeling today? If you want to change that feeling, which one of those colors is going to change that for you? And they would start putting the paint on, and making marks. And it didn't have to be anything. It's just that they're applying that paint according to how they're feeling at the moment. And then I'd have some where I would just say, well, I can show you a little trick that's kind of cool. Maybe you want to use it, maybe you don't. But put some paint down, let it dry, put some more paint down, scratch through it. And they'd come alive because they'd see the other color underneath it. So then that would send them on, a new technique that they could use. I guess I maybe taught technique to some point, just introducing them to different ways to put paint on. You don't have to use the flat of the brush. You can use the edge of it. You can use the little tip. You can do different things with it. You can do, you could use the other end of the brush without a brush on it, So just introducing them to new things and let them take it where they need to go.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I did is had a summer school program in for middle school kids. A bunch of them were at-risk kids. I wanted to really focus on getting them in this class, and we created just a whole 2-month-long class of developing a mobile scavenger hunt thing. But one thing we did is we came into your studio and had the kids make a self-portrait of themselves. And not exactly how they are, but like in some way that describes more of who they are. And I thought that was really interesting. And that was actually, I think, your idea of saying, well, why don't you have them come in and just make a self-portrait, and then they can learn about themselves as they're forced to think about themselves in order to make that art. And I think it's neat how art can help us understand things that are happening inside of us that we aren't necessarily aware of.
Oh yeah, it's very soul opening, I guess you might say. It's meditative because all the rest of life goes away when you're really working, but you really do dig deep down into who you are, no matter what you're doing. It doesn't have to be a self-portrait, but you're experimenting, you're trying new things, you're making your own decisions, which is one thing that I learned. People who lived in group environments because of their disability, oftentimes it's time to get up. This is what you're eating. You don't have a choice. Some of them even had to be told what to wear. They didn't have a choice. And you don't have a choice. You have to come with, because we have one driver and we have to take that other person someplace. So the entire group of house people have to go with, because they don't have anybody to stay at home with them. So a lot of the choices that they do during the day were made for them. And at the studio, we didn't do that. They made their own choices. And it was very enlightening for them to have that kind of power somewhere in their life. It's just...
I really am, through the processes of this interview, being fascinated with your approach of how you bring art to other people. My oldest son in grade school had a teacher that required them to use Sharpies between all the colors on their pictures in order to make the colors pop. It's like, well, you can't just have a blue and a green come together. You got to draw with your Sharpie in between there. I'm like, who does that? Who does that? Like, well, why do you have to do art the way that this person wants this technique to be? I could see doing one technique, saying, hey, try it with a black line and see what that does.
Yeah.
And then
if it doesn't trip your trigger,
it doesn't
throw it away. Yeah,
right. It's not better or worse.
Yeah. Yeah. I was always the mom that visited, the school and spent the day at school with my kids once in a while. And this particular day, I was in an art classroom. Worst day ever. They were doing self-portraits. And the teacher is like, now, I don't want to see any green or purple faces. I said, what if you're feeling kind of blah today and you feel kind of green around the edges? I think I might have been pregnant at the time, too, so I was probably feeling green around the edges.
Have you ever studied Picasso?
Yeah. I says, have you ever seen Van Gogh? He's got lots of colors on his face. Why? And he didn't have an answer for that. He had no answer for it. He was just determined that these were going to look like the children that drew them.
Yeah. You talked about being in the moment, and the rest of life sort of blocks out. Like there's a flow, and that's a common element, whether it's through meditation or somebody skiing their moguls in the Olympics or doing whatever, playing the music, of just tapping into something deeper, maybe having different music you're playing to try to, or sounds. And what are things that you do to help get you into the flow and focused right on what you're doing and drop everything else off?
I really don't have a technique for that. I get bored with what I have to do out there sometimes. Like the dishes are piling up and I'm like, okay, I just need to go paint. So I'll come in here and I'll just start painting, and I can go as long as I need to go. I may only spend 5 minutes here, but I needed to do something. And I have had times where I'm in here for a couple of hours at a time, and yeah, everything disappears. The dishes don't, but everything else does. I don't have a method of just, I gotta, anything like that, or play music or anything like that. I just come in here and it happens. It either happens or it doesn't happen. But even 5 minutes of just total focus on something.
I think that 5-minute art is could catch on. I mean, that's kind of how you start, because somebody may think, well, I don't have time to sit down and make a painting or do this. But just a pencil and a notepad, 5 minutes of just that can totally transform how you go back for the rest of your day.
Yeah. Yeah. My favorite thing in ceramics class, when I was doing ceramics, was, I don't remember if it was a 5-minute or a 10-minute, but it was a teapot. We had to throw a lump of clay, open it up, create a teapot, make a lid for it, had to have a spout and a handle, and we had to do it within 10 minutes time. Now, some people, it takes 10, 20 minutes just to center the piece. So you had to throw all that away. You just had to do it because he had the timer set behind our backs, And I loved those days when he had us do those because it was so spontaneous. You had to react to that clay immediately. You didn't have time to think about, is this the right shape? Do I need to go bigger? You just had to do it. And I saw some other students who were very controlling with their clay struggle so much. They hated that project. They struggled so much. Me, I'm just like, clay is going all over the place. It was just my happy time when he had us do this. And the teacher would have us do that every now and then just to loosen us up, to break us out of that controlling mode, because clay on a wheel can be a very controlling thing, and it can control you if you let it. I never let it. And I think I'd probably do that with my painting too. I just let it happen.
You talked about wanting to learn more about whites. What's that mean?
I guess sometimes I just need a challenge, like one time I went through a time period of, I'm going to challenge myself. Everything I do is going to square canvas. So this time around, because I wasn't necessarily painting an object that was familiar or wasn't getting into realism or anything, I would challenge myself to limit my colors. And the end goal is supposed to be that the painting looks white without being white. You would walk past that painting and go, oh, that's a white painting. But yet there's so many more other colors underlying there and peeking through that it's not really white, but your first initial action might be it's white. So it's just kind of a little challenge that I've put on myself. Just kind of like the same thing with taking whatever image or thought that comes to my mind and taking that shape that I've seen or dreamt about or something, and then putting it in some place where you won't expect it, in a landscape, or creating a landscape out of something that's not a landscape. So it's just a part of the white was part of that challenge of just creating that.
Did you ever try that with other colors?
No, I haven't. This is the first time I've really challenged myself with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've limited my colors palette before, because it can really open your eyes up to a lot of different things. Anytime you change what you're doing, it opens your eyes to something. I had a classmate. She was similar in age to me when we were both in classes together at Whitewater, and she was always using little tiny brushes, getting every little. I says, Elaine, here's a big brush. Here's my big brush, because I'm painting with big brushes, just go all over. And she says that opened her eyes so much, painting with a big brush, that when she went back to her little brush, things were different. She says things were noticeably different. So
I think diversity in every part of life is so important. I remember I was really into the Thompson Twins when I was in grade school and that type of music. And my older brother worked at a record store in town, and so he was exposed to lots of different stuff. And he'd give me stuff to listen to, and he said, you got to listen to it twice. You have to, like, not just once. But here's you don't have to like it, but just expose yourself to as many different things as possible. Even if it's music or art or travel or different situations and jobs to put yourself, just the diversity of it helps us grow as people.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, they always say travel opens your eyes too. Yeah, that's so very true. Seeing new things and the way people live, and it just opens up your eyes so much. I think it opens up your heart too, in just a way that sticking in one small town just doesn't do it. You get a very closed idea of what the world is like, and you get very opinionated that this is the only way life is. So yeah, travel will open up that, just like,
I find that my dreams are always more vivid when I'm doing new things. And you talked about seeing things in your dreams, then waking up and then wanting to recreate that somehow. What do your dreams mean to you? What significance do they have in your life?
Probably nothing.
Yeah.
Unless something is really standing out noticeably to me. I've written some poetry that derived from a dream. I've painted several things now that came to me in a dream. It's just a particular dream just stands out for some reason, and I got to do something with that. There was a reason why I dreamt that, I guess. But not every dream does that. Yeah. Some of them are just like so bizarre that's like, where did this come from?
Do you, like you mentioned, do you feel like it comes just from your brain processing what we're seeing in the world and putting that into memory? Or is it possibly also, or just primarily, inspiration from something bigger than you?
I'm, so it's some of those really weird dreams I've had where you wake up and you just go, what is this about? And you start to look at it and you start to pick it apart. And it's something that happened 2-3 weeks ago that you go, oh, that was in my dream over here. And then you start, oh, that happened yesterday. And oh, this part was something that happened a month ago. That all these little things that we've been inputting in our lives daily, whatever it is that we see and hear and do, are inputted in there, and it gets scrambled up in there somewhere. There's a little wash machine in there that just scrambles everything up, and it all comes out as a dream that it's all put together, and it doesn't make any sense until you really start to pick it apart and you realize those little snippets have all come from someplace in your life.
Do you remember your dreams regularly?
Not always. I have moments of very vividly remembering, but not all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll remember a dream that happened months ago, or it's like, I think that dream I had a couple years ago. And once I start remembering a dream, then it's like a snowballing effect. Dreams will just start coming back. It's like, oh yeah, that dream. Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm kind of wondering, is there any connection between people who have vivid dreams, remember the dreams, and how they live their life creatively, during the day?
They say there's a correlation. There's a lot of science behind how to tap into your dreams and how to remember your dreams and everything, but that's too much for me.
Yeah.
If I remember it, I remember it. If I don't, if it means something, and my brain says, you got to paint this, I'll paint it. I'll listen to it and I'll do what it says. Other than that, I don't worry too much about dreams, unless it's really weird and I have to pick it apart and wonder where it came from.
Yeah, I don't get into the meaning of the dreams too much.
Yeah,
I don't even know if there is any meaning.
I've had recurring dreams over the years that are the very same dream that I remember having, like you said, many years ago. They're snakes and tornadoes are the two dreams that I've had recurring. And sometimes it's exactly the same location that I'm in. Like the tornadoes are coming, one after the other, and I'm sitting in the basement looking out the windows, seeing them coming. So that's like a recurring dream that I've had. And I haven't had that dream, any tornado dreams, in years. Once I lived in a house that had a basement. I had someplace safe to go. So those dreams went away. Snake dreams are another dream that I would just wake up horrified with. I was always having snake dreams.
Are you scared of snakes in ordinary life?
Yeah, I am scared of snakes. I was scared of snakes. I didn't even like worms, they were too snaky looking. But snakes scared me so much that if I'd be flipping through a magazine, and a snake appeared on a picture, there was a scream and the magazine went flying. It would scare me so much. And a few things in life changed those dreams. One of them was shortly after my divorce. It was like an unloading of things, And then I also had an opportunity to go to my granddaughter's class. I don't know what it was, some kind of big thing that they had. And they had all these different stations. And one of them was a lady who had reptiles. And I said, I'm going to touch a snake, just out of the blue. So I went to the lady. It was just a little tiny, skinny snake, nothing big. And I says, I don't want to see its head and I don't want to see its tail. Just let me touch the in-between part. So she politely just kind of held it so I couldn't see its head. And I touched it, and it was so warm and so soft. And I cried the entire time because I actually touched a snake. And I literally wanted to jump on the table in the middle of this room of the community people and all the children and say, I touched a snake. The tears are coming down. They had I had to leave because I was crying so much. But after that, then, so, that divorce came and I unloaded a lot of stuff with that. And then I was able to touch that snake there. And since then, snakes don't scare me as much.
Mm-hmm.
I've come to terms with them.
Yeah, there's one of the recurring dreams that I might have is being in a school where I just haven't been going to one of the classes. And the end of the year comes and I realize, like, you know what, I'm just going to fail this class because I haven't turned in any homework on it. And I suppose I could probably find correlations to what's going on in my life where I'm feeling unprepared,
Yeah.
or overwhelmed with stuff. But but then touching the snake, doing things in your life to, like, recognize that and take away the fear. And I think it's so important to find your fears. And if you can't logically explain why it's dangerous or exactly how it's going to hurt you, put yourself in that situation and just see what happens. And then the fears disappear.
Yeah. Yeah. I the thought just went through my mind when you were talking about school and missing classes and stuff. I didn't. One dream that I had through high school was I used to have a one-piece pajama with red and white stripes and the drop seat, in the back. And the same dream would happen. I would somehow end up wearing those to school. And the only place to go to the bathroom was in the middle of the hallway where everybody can see you. Don't know why I had that dream. I'm glad that one went away, but that was an odd one.
Yeah. What getting away from the night dreams and just life? What are you dreaming about now? Like, what's next?
What's my next new beginning? Right now I'm retired from the studio. I was there for 16, 17 years managing everything, and I was just like, it's time for someone else to take this over. And I'm retired, and I hung on for a little while to get everybody situated, and just really decided I had to pull way back and just really retire. So then I went through that phase of, okay, now what do I do with my life? Going, oh, wow, I have all the time in the world to keep the weeds out of my garden. They're not all gone, but I try. And to paint. I can get back to my art. So that's really where my focus now is, to really get back to my art and be really exploring that again. Because after college, I was right immediately into everything that needed to happen to develop that nonprofit and work it and manage it and market it and everything. Right. So my art really I was involved in art and I was helping others make art, but I wasn't making my art at all for all those years. And so that's where I'm at now, is enjoying that retirement so that I can get back to really figuring out who I am again, reinventing myself once again, and making my art.
Is it just for yourself? Do you have any plans of sharing it with the community?
I would love to get some exhibits. I think that's what I would like to do, is to have it, have gallery exhibits or gallery representation so they can sell my artwork. Right now, my daughter and I are trying a few art and craft fair circuits to see how we like doing that. And we're just like...
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. I'd rather just pack up all my paintings, take it to an exhibit, and they have it for a month and then come back and pick them up. It's a lot easier than having 4 hours of unloading and unpacking and selling artwork that way.
Well, thanks so much for sitting down. I just love getting more context about who you are and just digging in and learning stuff that I'd never learned without being able to just have this time with you. And I think it's going to inspire a lot of people. And that's the whole point of this podcast. And I'm sure it's going to change some lives somehow. So, Deborah Blackwell, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
If you enjoyed this episode and you know somebody that might be inspired by it, share it with them. To learn more about the show, go to chasingthetimeless.com.